On this week's show, we'll be discussing everything we know about the Switch 2, the specs, the games, the price and the controversy, and maybe some other gaming news if we can squeeze it in. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's video game stories and news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Joining me this week is none other than the Arcade Rogue, Mr. Chris. How are you?
I'm full of Nintendo juice and I'm ready to go.
Nintendo's got the juices in you.
It has for many decades now.
Oh yeah, me too. You can't be a gamer and not have some part of you love Nintendo.
Absolutely not.
You might feel like you've grown up from Nintendo, but there's going to be something there in every gamer.
Yeah, if not, your kids probably are now. Yeah. So the circle is now complete.
Indeed. But we do have a great show lined up for you. But before we get into that, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you're kept in the loop of all our amazing content here at GamerGuildTV, such as Chris, Livestreams Thursday.
Yes, I'm finished. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is complete. Ellie and Abby's journey of revenge and violence has came to its conclusion. All 9 episodes available now on the channel. Prepped Richie perfectly, almost seamlessly, just in time for HBO's second season. It is, yeah. In time for season 2 of The Last of Us landing on Sky over here in the UK, HBO over in the States. And of course that then leads in nicely to our season 2 of the Clickercast, where we'll be breaking down and covering the episode every single week live with the wonderful folks out there in our audience. But yep. Finished it, enjoyed it. I was talking to you before we went live with recording the show, and I had a little bit of a bug that snuck in there, which I didn't realise during the live stream, but it since came to light that The Last of Us came out on PC literally the same day. Didn't even know, it was just a happy coincidence. So when I booted up my version of it on PlayStation 5, it did like a patch, and I thought, well, it's been quite a while. It's odd that I've scared Richie away talking about it. It's odd that the patch would do that, and just updated it anyway, so I had the latest version, as you do. And yeah, started the game, didn't have my heavy weapon holster, didn't have my upgrades in the skill tree. Didn't really think anything of it other than my save file may have been bugged or corrupt or something, but thought I'll power it anyway. So it made the finale a little bit more difficult, not having a quick swap. And missing, obviously, things like health trees, ability to craft things, or my health wasn't as good. But then after the fact, we realised that apparently with the PC and the patch release, it's actually broke loads of people's saves where it's actually a bug from Naughty Dog when they put out the wider release. So, but you know what? We got there. Endure and survive is the motto, right? So that I did, and I'm sure they'll fix it in like a little additional patch. But yeah, it came with a couple of more trophies, some fresh skins. Funny enough, you can actually buy things like an intergalactic jacket for Ellie now, like a bomber jacket thing, within The Last of Us for the DLC and the content. And they've added 4 new maps to the no return mode alongside the ability to play as Bill and Marlene. So a little bit extra just sprinkled in there with the PC release. It's nice to see a single player game getting additional content. But yeah, all finished, all wrapped up. Amazing story, absolute masterpiece, of course. And yeah, now I'm just heading back to the world of Assassin's Creed Shadows, chipping away, enjoying Naoe's story. I'm still not back to Yasuke. I'm still very much in that. I'm happy to just explore the open world and clear every area.
When you get to like certain like quest milestones, you get to pick whether you go do some quests for Yasuke or for Naoe. And it's an either-or situation.
I'm not even at that point yet. I don't think I've pushed on a Naoe's main quest to actually get to that cross-section moment yet, because what I'm doing is basically clearing entire areas out, finding all the question marks, classic Ubisoft style, and I'm killing loads of people along the way, and like I said, I'm just in that assassin's floor. I'm like, you die, you die, you die, barrel roll, you die, jump off a building. And I'm just enjoying it. So yeah, a couple more hours in this week.
So you've not played as Yasuke since the opening hours of the game?
Nope.
Interesting.
But again, limited because I've been down to London for work and I've not actually had that much time. But what I have played, I've still been just thoroughly enjoying it. And now I'm panicking that we've got Indiana Jones coming out soon, and South of Midnight's next week, which we're going to talk about in the news. That came around quick. And yeah, video games. And now we've got a whole new console and a whole new slew of games on the horizon as well. What about you? What have you been playing?
So I have been chipping away at Indiana Jones. My cadence is quite slow because I'm probably playing for the odd hour here and there at the moment. It took the back seat a bit to Pokemon Violet, which I'll get into in a bit. I'm still loving Indiana Jones. It's just because it's on Xbox. I've talked about the logistics of me and Xbox, but tons of times. But I am 4 achievements away from completing the game.
Wow, not too bad.
Two of them are collectible, 2 of them are story, and I think most of the collectibles are linked to the story or story areas I haven't been to yet.
Brilliant.
So
the best way to round out a game.
Yeah, I'm pretty much trying to do all the cleanup. I actually got about 4 trophies earlier before we came live, just because when you get right near the end of the game and you're just like, oh, I'll just go do this, trophy pops, go do that, trophy pops, as you get in the
all
last
lined
year.
up.
So
like a beautiful stack of dominoes.
I got all the boxing rings done. I've got all the mysteries done. Got most of the notes for most of the areas apart from the last area. So got all like the relics. It's just all starting to fall into place.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Just Indiana Jones would be proud.
Yeah. So very soon I will have that 100% achievement on Xbox, which isn't as satisfying as having a platinum trophy. PlayStation should just give me it. Anyway, if I buy the game, on PlayStation, they should let me just transfer my save. When you just drop the save, ping everything.
Yeah. One day we'll get to that cross progression stage, I'm sure. All we need now is Nintendo to do achievements, so we can unify all of them. But we'll get to that.
Other than that, I have been delving into the world of Pokemon with two games actually. Pokemon Blue, which I am playing for content reasons. Episode 5, it went live on today's Friday. It went live on Friday for members. I don't have a plan to release it for non-members just yet. I think I might wait till the entire series is recorded and then start releasing it week by week after that. That's what I'm currently thinking of. I'm trying to get it recorded as quickly as possible, which is why I skipped The Last of Us live again. But I was sat here watching and recording Pokemon, so...
Dual tasking.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones would be proud.
Yeah, indeed. Pokemon Violet.
Indeed.
Just enjoying it. I don't think it's not a great Pokemon game. It's a fine Pokemon game.
It might run better on the Switch too.
It's not performance that I have the issue with. I just don't think it's that interesting of a game. I think it's too open for its own good.
Ooh.
There's when it's just like directionless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to be honest, oddly enough, there's too many Pokemon.
And when you got to catch them all, that creates problems.
I have been like brainwashed into thinking I have to catch every Pokemon. So when I come to an area, if there's a Pokemon in that area I haven't got, I have to get it until before I move on, which is very time consuming. So sometimes feels like there is just too many different varieties in an area. So I think and then I'm one probably like you, where you want to explore every single nook and cranny in the area to make sure you don't miss anything before you move on. Because it is such a huge map, it just takes time. And traversal's not straightforward yet until you upgrade your, the box art Pokemon. Mm-hmm. As you play through the game, you upgrade that to have more traversal stuff. Yeah, the motorbike
one.
So traversal in the early game isn't the easiest thing, so it's just a bit sluggish, but I am largely just playing it while I'm watching my girlfriend play Assassin's Creed. So it's a kind of very casual, brain dead kind of game. So I'm enjoying it in that sense.
Good. That's good.
But unless there's anything else you've been playing, Chris, I think it might be time to introduce us to
the graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news.
The news, and as always, our news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, which you can join for as little as 99p over on the YouTube channel. You'll get early access to things like the Clicker. Is the Clickercast still just early access?
No, it's fully public now.
Previously, you got early access for the Clickercast Season 2. You can get early access to Pokemon Blue, episodes 2 till 5. And you never know, depending on how my weekend goes, you might even get an episode 6 before this episode goes live. I don't know.
Bonus episode.
Yeah. well, not a bonus episode. I'm just literally trying to like fit in recordings of that every chance I get. Just to get. I don't want this to be an Ocarina of Time situation where it takes me an entire year to play the game. So I'm just recording. I'm just trying to record and just get through that. But that's now all up for members. Members get it as soon as I'm pretty much going to record, edit, stick it straight up for members.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Chris, it's been some huge news, but before we get into what is probably going to take up most of the show, South of Midnight has come out, which you've mentioned in the intro.
Yes.
That caught us a bit by surprise, actually, I think, South of Midnight coming out, because I don't think we weren't thinking about it.
It's April's came around so quick, but yeah, this is very much going to be the Nintendo Switch 2 episode, so it only seemed fair that we didn't talk about Switch 2 for an hour and 20 minutes and then try and shoehorn South of Midnight in at the end, because it's getting good reviews. It's a game we've both been excited for. I'm looking forward to playing it. But yeah, April came around so quick, and then this got sandwiched in quick. We only got Avowed what feels like last week.
Yeah, it's a bad week for it to come out with all the... I think this is why we just kind of didn't really notice it came out, because of the Switch 2.
Yeah, it just absorbed all the energy in the industry. But in terms of, South of Midnight comes out officially on Tuesday. It's got the premium early access now, so if you want to pay that extra little bit further, you could have played it the weekend gone. When the show goes live. But getting some good reviews out there. Of course, this is the kind of the Deep in the Bayou new game from Xbox. It's the same people who did We Happy Few before. And getting good reviews. Just to read a few. Pure Xbox gave it a 9 out of 10. And I read, for me, South of Midnight is a bit of a triumph and exactly the sort of thing I want to see more of from Xbox Studios. It's not perfect and its combat mechanics are a little bit lacking, but the game has so much soul, personality and charm that it's not hard to fall in love with it. I was engrossed in the storybook visuals, the well-delivered narrative and the satisfying traversal from start to finish, and I really can't recommend this one enough on Xbox Game Pass. Moving on, IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. They said South of Midnight is a straightforward but well-executed action-adventure game on the surface, but with a simple but satisfying mix of combat and platforming. It's focused, filling out its 12-hour runtime nicely, with ever dragging and relying on unnecessary padding. Beyond those basics, however, it's a certain heart and artistry that elevates the whole package and invites you to peer into the deep American South through its folklore, nature, and culture. It may not be the most profound exploration of family life, but it's delivered in ways that feel genuine and authentic. And then, I guess, to read a more lower down the score ranking one, because it's not officially out yet, so this is probably people who've just had some early access. We've got, try and get a non-Xbox one, just so we've not got that Windows bias.
I've got one from Windows Central. It's not a negative one, but it's an 80. Compulsion Games has crafted a love letter to Southern Gothic with its third-person action-adventure games, South of Midnight. The characters feel larger than life and intimately relatable all at once, while the narrative doesn't shy away from the brutal nature of the South's history. Combat is fun, though limited enemy variety does drag towards the end of the game. Overall, it's a story that feels intimate and uncomfortable, and what I hope others experience. I picked that one because I've read a few had the similar thing where setting amazing, characters amazing, narrative amazing, gameplay by the book. Nothing, not doing anything exceptional, nothing doing anything bad, just maybe a little unimaginative is some of the impression I'm getting in the gameplay. Which is why I'm feeling like some of the reviews are getting like 9s and 10s and some of them down at 7s. Where depending if you are hardcore focused on the gameplay or just the presentation, you're going to get a different experience here.
Absolutely. VGC gave it a 6. They said, South of Midnight is a gorgeous adventure with wonderful performances, striking visuals, and solid platforming gameplay. Its combat, however, is repetitive and reductive in equal measure, letting the overall package down considerably. Similar to from Game Rant, they gave it a 6 as well, said it excels in key areas, but its gameplay is so underwhelming that it's hard to truly appreciate everything it does well. So I think this depends on where you're approaching it from. I think I've already locked it in my head. I'm purely there for story. I really couldn't give that much of a shit about the gameplay. If it's punchy combat where it's just mash X and Y and jump around and maybe use a couple of spells in these like little arenas, and then it's story, it's character development, it's experience that world of the Deep South. The music is apparently fantastic, and the fact that it's only 12 hours, I'm there for that nice short story. I have also read in a few reviews if you're not into combat, you are just there for the story. Apparently in the settings, you can actually turn off combat zones. So when you do get into a battle arena, I guess, or those little segments, it basically just jumps straight forward to the story progressing. So that the game, probably you could play it a lot shorter if you are looking for that.
Yeah. So,
which is a nice option.
Reading briefly from the Gamer, the long chapters in South of Midnight take anywhere between 1 and 2 hours each, while the shorter chapters usually take around about half an hour. If you're aiming to beat the game without going off the beaten path at all, you're looking around 10 to 12 hours to complete.
Sounds good to me.
So I'm with you, where it's not the gameplay that's attracting me to this game. It is the presentation, it is the setting, it is the quirkiness of the characters and exploring a part of the world, to be honest, and the folklore of that world that I'm aware of, but in a kind of very surface level passing way. So to have the opportunity to sink my teeth a bit deeper into there via gaming as my chosen medium, that's why I'm interested in this game. I'm not expecting this to be the most innovative gameplay experience ever.
For those who can't remember as well, this is you play as Hazel. She's going to explore the mythos and encounter creatures of southern folklore in a macabre and fantastical world. When disaster strikes her hometown, Hazel is called to become a weaver, a magical mender of broken bonds and spirits. Imbued with these abilities, Hazel will confront and subdue dangerous creatures, untangle the webs of her own family's shared past, and if she's lucky, find her way to a place that feels like home.
Yeah.
So I think it looks great. I'm glad the scores are coming in and looking forward to it.
Yeah. How long to beat is like bringing the game up 15 hours for completionists, but I always think with how long to beat, you take them numbers as with a pinch of salt, because one, games don't just come out, so it's only going to be people playing quick who's finished it.
Yep.
Two, I think it tends to be the people actually putting up the times in this tend to lean towards actually finishing through games a lot quicker and getting through a lot of games.
Absolutely.
So I always think their estimates are lower estimates.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But we'll probably have a first look up on the channel. I'll definitely get one in the bag if I get time. So keep it locked to the channel to see more of South of Midnight soon.
I think
I will be.
It may replace Indiana Jones as my ongoing Xbox game.
Yep.
When I finish Indiana Jones. So the one that I'm playing like sporadically here and there. Well, we'll see. So, moving on, Chris, I think, to the big news of the week, or potentially the big news of the year, really. I'm not expecting any bigger gaming news this year than the Switch 2. We got a Direct. We've got a lot of information about it. Where would you like to start?
Oh, yeah, if you're here for other gaming news this week, there is none. The Nintendo Switch 2 has taken over everything.
I genuinely looked. I couldn't find any.
Yeah, I did as well. And as Richie said at the top of the show, we've got, if you're here for everything, we've got the breakdown, the specs reveal, we'll talk about the price, we'll talk about Donald Trump's tariffs and how they might impact the price, because I've heard a lot of stuff in the States side saying that actually Nintendo are maybe looking at their pre-orders again because they've kind of shot themselves in the foot, because a lot of these imports come from places like Vietnam and China.
That's something that's just been emerging over the last 24 hours, so I'm not fully up to date on that.
But we can certainly bring you up to speed with our thoughts and opinions on it. But and then, a ton of new games to look at. So, Richie, I guess we've got to start things like the price and specs of the actual console.
Yeah, let's jump straight
ultimately into it. The hardware is where it all begins, right?
So, we don't have any specs in terms of how many megaflops or gigaflops that the CPU's running, stuff like that. What we do have is... I'll start with the prices and the release date, actually. So the console price in the UK, base console price is £395.99. Mario Kart bundle, which is the only bundle currently available, is £429.99. New games, I've got it down as an estimate of £75 because there seems to be a bit of controversy over that, whether is that too high, too low, and some games are going to be more different price. So I don't want to focus on that till we get more information. But I just did make a note that's where it's looking like Nintendo first parties might be pitched at. What are your thoughts on the price of this, Chris?
I'm happy with it. It's I think stateside where it was coming in at like $449, I think they were expecting it to be $399. And then I thought when the reveal happened, we were going to get stung on conversion rates, which we quite often do, especially when it comes to technology and video games. And then surprisingly, the UK prices, I think, came out first. They got published on the Nintendo website first of all. And they were cheaper. And it was like, I can pick this up for less than 400. And then with the markup of the Mario Kart bundle, with there is a price delineation. Apparently, the physical copies are going to be more than digital. So Nintendo are making that push over to digital, where traditionally they have been more physical media, as the reports have shown.
But there is also the chance of third-party retailers doing discounts beyond what Nintendo recommends. So it's
of course, yeah, that's what always happens. But in terms of Nintendo's games, they've made the jump. Remember, PlayStation up to $69.99 for their last bout of console PS5 games. Xbox followed suit, and then it seems like Nintendo are pushing that barrier up a little bit more. All leading into, I guess, Grand Theft Auto rumours about Grand Theft Auto 5 being 5? What are we up to? 6, sorry. Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah.
Rumours being that it might push that $99.99 mark. I think Nintendo are kind of just paving the way for that extra jump now, but we won't go into that here because different prices, physical, digital. It's not a lot of people aren't happy with it, but it's the way in the industry is going, as I mentioned at the top, with inflation and tariffs and the way technology is at the moment. It seems like the natural progression. But for the console and the bundle, Richie, I think for $429, that seems like an absolute, I don't want to say steal because I guess that's overreacting. It's still a couple £100, but it seems really good price value compared to a top level PS5 and a top level Xbox right now. I know it doesn't quite reach the spec wise, but for a mainstream console, I think, just over 400 with the probably one of the biggest selling games of all time it bundled in. I think it's good. How about yourself?
I'm kind of saying we probably do need to jump into the spot we know of the specs as well to actually put this in context. Mm-hmm. And while you're mentioning this doesn't compete head to head with a PS5 Pro or Xbox Series X, and I've actually seen some controversy and people online being a bit snobby about that. Mm-hmm. And I even saw someone on Twitter commenting going, it's like, could just play that on games on PC and get a better performance. It's like, well, yeah. Like, if you have like £1,500, £2,000 to buy a top end gaming PC, it's going to blow the Switch 2 out the water. But that's not the point of consoles to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
And realistically is anyone expecting? If you're expecting Nintendo to compete with a PS5 Pro, Xbox Series X, I think you've been smoking something a bit funny.
It's like going to your local Renault garage and going, I expect a Ferrari from you guys. Yeah. It's like, not only do you not have the budget, but we also don't make that type of car, so Nintendo, you might want to go elsewhere.
Haven't been the guys to push the power of the hardware, what's possible of hardware since the Nintendo 64, and even then you can make the argument they did that because of the transition to 3D, so it was necessary to support the software. Nintendo are predominantly a software company.
I'd say the GameCube was competing with the PS2. It's the closest margin I think since we've got, and then that void just PS3 to the next one just.
Yeah, but I don't think the GameCube was ever going head to head though. I think that's where the deviation was already happening, because I actually think of GameCube almost as going up against PS3 and PS2. It's in the crossover. But let's talk about the specs that we do know. So the new Switch 2 will have a 7.9 inch screen. The current Switch has a 6.2. So decent size increase. You get another 1.7 inches diagonally, which is not to be sniffed at. Bear in mind, this is still meant to be a handheld format, so you don't want to go too big.
You'll be lugging around a flat screen TV with you all day long.
They did make a point, oddly stressed the point that it is the same thickness, apparently 13.9 millimeters, as the current Switch. That is, however, not including the overhang from the triggers. Mm-hmm. But I found it was a weird thing because, to be honest, if the Switch was a centimeter thicker, does anyone care that much? It's quite a thin console to begin with.
Yeah.
Fact.
Here's one I made earlier.
The
OLED.
Yeah. The Zelda one.
Oh. Yeah, no one cares about that.
Yeah, it's like but it was in there, so I thought I'd bring it up. The new screen isn't going to be an OLED. They described it as a vivid LCD, 1080p, with a refresh rate up to 120 frames per second and HDR support.
Which I think surprised a lot of people.
That is exactly what I wanted to hear. OLED would have been better, but I'm happy with a good quality LCD for my portable device if it keeps the cost down. And because bear in mind, this is dockable.
Yeah. It's also worth considering as well the PlayStation Portal, which you and me both think is fantastic, and the display on that is beautiful. That's not OLED either. So if this Switch 2 comes anywhere near the quality of the PlayStation Portal, I don't think you really have to worry. Plus, if you're that concerned, give it 2 and a bit years and they'll release an OLED model, no doubt.
I think it comes down to sometimes when we're looking at this hardware, we go, OLED's the standards. But actually, OLED isn't the standard. It is the premium option.
Yeah.
And this is a mass market product. This isn't for absolutely hardcore gamers with money to burn. This Nintendo is essentially a kind of a toy company. They view their primary audience as children who don't care about OLED. I think a Vivid LCD is good enough, and as you mentioned, they probably will bring out an OLED version later. They've improved the speakers as well, which now having onboard 3D audio built into the console, so just generally better audio quality.
Yep.
They've added a built-in microphone with noise-cancelling tech. More about that later, because they've got some software features that leads into a more adjustable kickstand. So just these are just kind of general improvements over the Switch, which is kind of what I was asking for. Just give me the Switch, just better. They've added another USB-C port on the top, so you can, plug it. If it's docked, you can plug a controller in. It can do stuff. It's useful. That is going to be
so
useful.
You can charge it depending on if you're sat up on in a chair or you're laid down in a bed. You can charge it multiple ways, which is just
playing like this. I can just plug this in and charge it from the top without having the cable awkwardly running underneath. They also mentioned this is useful for another peripheral, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yep.
A significant upgrade in onboard storage. This is one where I'm not sure yet on. Current Switch has 32 gigabytes. The Switch 2 will have 256. It's a huge increase.
A lot more, yeah. But
what are the size of the games?
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I've criticised the Xbox Series S for not being 1 terabyte default. I do feel 1 terabyte should be the default, but it comes down to how big the games are ultimately. And Nintendo are geniuses at making games smaller than should make sense, but
it also goes back to your point about keeping the costs down, right? If they can shave off another couple of dollars here and there for storage with the option of micro SD cards to expand it freely to what you're willing to spend, then it's kind of the best of both worlds. They could have went with a terabyte, but it might have been £20, £30 more for the device. This way it gives, I guess, people the options, and as you said, for the kids, the families, and the Magic Nintendo work, you might be able to hold a couple of their main games on anywhere with the compression.
Yeah. You mentioned micro SD cards. Current micro SD cards that are compatible with the Switch 1 will not work on the Switch 2. It now supports micro SD Express cards. I'm not overly familiar with that storage medium. It is, but Nintendo basically described it as the better, faster, better data transfers, all that kind of thing. Yeah. So if you will have to probably buy a new micro SD card for it, specifically an Express one. Because
they did show off branded ones, right? With like Mario and stuff on,
I think there was a Seagate and maybe a Samsung one off the top of my head. So it looks like there might be a few Nintendo branded options. But I'm assuming they'll have FAQs and stuff that have details and compatibility and stuff later to date. But it's just one of them consumer things to be aware of. You're not going to be able to take your SD card out of your current Switch and stick it in the new one at work, or vice versa.
Yeah.
They have mentioned system transfer to move basically all your saved data, etc., straight over, which I have actually used system transfer on the Switch to transfer my data recently, actually. All my data from my own Switch to my girlfriend's OLED. because I am giving my Switch away to my nephews.
How nice.
And we did need 2 Switches in the house, so I kept the nice one.
How do you turn your lights off then?
Clap. Is that a weird thing that Americans have, like clappers to turn the lights on and off?
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I think it's something we saw in the 90s on sitcoms, and then now just people assume.
Let us know in the comments if you have a clapper or some sort of audio sensor that isn't linked to like an Alexa or something. So they have mentioned about the backwards compatibility as well. They stressed the word compatible Switch games, which suggests this could be 2 ways. Either they're just covering their own backs and just in case something doesn't work properly, or there's going to be games that won't play on the Switch 2 that do on the Switch.
I think it's a more case of covering their own backs. We saw it similar with PlayStation when they did like the PS4 to PS5, and then when they introduced things like you could change your account username, they were like some elements with the trophies might not work. The frame rate, the bug save, it's one of them things. Now these companies and these game libraries are forwards, backwards compatible, and they get into such a large scope that you're talking thousands upon thousands of games, a lot of which studios don't exist anymore. Like
it could be some weird niche line of code built into the OS of the Switch. That's some random game that was made by a tiny independent studio in
one person in the 80s.
In I don't know, Angola, if that's even still up there. I'm not sure. Made that line of code has not made its way over to the Switch 2's OS, so suddenly the game's incompatible. But it is probably that's how I'm reading it at the moment. But it is one of them things I do feel like we need to mention just in case we're wrong. But surely, if there's a list of incompatible games will probably be available at a later date, I'd imagine, if there's any. Yeah. Keeping with the compatibility stuff, the game card, it will be the same size and shape as the current Switch ones, which means that you can use your physical Switch games on the Switch 2.
Great to know.
Obviously, it doesn't work the other way around. The new ones are faster, just basic. Same size, shape, but all around better technology, similar to the micro SD card situation. And they're now red.
Important question though, Richie.
Yeah.
Do they taste better?
We don't know.
They didn't mention that. They didn't mention which flavours we've got with the Switch 2.
They did mention it's going to be red, so I'm guessing strawberry.
Yeah, of course. Just to dissuade all the young children from eating the cartridges.
Yeah.
But
I actually do think the colour makes sense. Because if you have a load of Switch cartridges, the red ones can only be used on the Switch 2. The grey ones can be used wherever. Yeah, it's a small
nice
detail,
bit of branding.
Yeah, it is. And Amiibo support will still exist.
That's good to know.
Amiibo's one of them things where I feel like it's went quiet. So that's why I actually made a point where it's got, you have mentioned Amiibo, because it feels like one of them things that they could just not put here and answered later down the line or something. It's like,
I think it goes back to the backwards compatibility, because they do interact with so many games on the original Switch. It's more a case of like, we've got you covered for that as well. Plus, maybe they're hoping for a second wave. Of course, Amiibos are generally tied to a game franchise or a game launch. And Nintendo have been digging deep in the remaster basket recently, so maybe a whole slew of brand new Switch 2 games might bring a whole new bunch. Like, let's face it, they can immediately put out 20 new Mario Kart ones for all of the different characters.
Yeah, I mean, we can get onto that because they have announced some. They don't call them remasters; they call them Switch 2 editions of games, which we'll get into when we get down to the software part of this. I want to keep checking through the hardware quickly. They have they've announced the new docks are still going to be dockable. I'm assuming at this point in time, because they haven't mentioned anything, that it will only be compatible with the Switch 2 dock. So it probably won't be compatible with original Switch docks. The reason I'm saying that is because, one, the Switch 2 docks do now have up to 4K support, which is genuinely I'm surprised by, and the Nintendo product supporting 4K.
Yep.
But they have a built-in fan for cooling. So which means that they have determined the current Switch 2 hardware might run a bit hot when it's docked, and when it's running at full whack.
Yeah,
it's going to run a bit hot. which I'm assuming when in handheld mode, it's not going to be running at full speed. So
it goes back to just the form factor, doesn't it? It's like you can't fit the vents or the cooling mechanism in that's required. So if the up-res and the output, it makes sense that they would need some kind of device to keep it chill. So
I mean, there is cooling built into the current Switch, so I'm guessing there'll be something similar into the Switch 2. But I think, well, the thing is, docking it isn't suddenly giving the console more power, because the power's in literally, that's where all the power comes from. There's no extra processing in the dock. What the dock can do is better power delivery via USB, and in this case, cooling. So that's where you're getting better performance, and because you're not relying on the battery life, if the current Switch ran at full whack in handheld mode, it burned through the battery dead quick.
Yep.
Which is why which is probably the reason why it's only 720p, not a 1080p screen. Moving on, we're getting a new Switch 2 Pro controller. There isn't much really to say about this apart from the inclusion of new features that are ubiquitous with the Switch 2. We're getting an extra button, the C button.
The Chris button?
The Chris button, which you can press if you want to talk to Chris.
I pop up in the corner, the little me version of me pops up and goes, and goes from there.
Yeah, so there's a C button, which we'll get into when we'll get into some of the new features for the Switch 2, because it's largely linked to other features rather than being another general control button. They have added some GL and GR buttons on the grips at the back of it. Basically,
you got some flappy paddles.
Flappy paddles and a Nintendo thing, which they say can just be assigned to other buttons.
Who'd have thought Nintendo would be the first to standardise flappy paddles ahead of PlayStation and Xbox?
Yeah.
That's kind of mad when you think of the type of games they both do as well.
They're there. They've added an audio jack. Now, they described it as an audio jack. They didn't say if it's headphone only or it's a combo headphone microphone one. So some of these details may not have been in the presentation, may be out now anyway, but there will be an audio jack on the Switch 2 Pro controller. Don't know. The reason I mentioned the microphone potentially is because the Switch 2 will has a built-in microphone now. So I'm not sure. I'm assuming the Pro controller will have a built-in microphone, because this links into some of the features that I keep alluding to, but we'll get to very soon.
It will do, yeah.
Moving on to the Joy-Cons, Joy-Con 2. So I mentioned the C button. The C button is a chat button. It is present on the right Joy-Con and is linked to their new features, mainly GameChat and GameShare. Basically, it's basically a social button, I suppose you could describe it. It's there for you to communicate with other people.
It's essentially Discord for Switch.
Yeah, basically. And it looks very much like Discord, actually, when you look at GameChat.
Yeah,
I have got a feeling it is built on Discord. It uses magnets now to Switch rather than rails, which we knew, but...
We knew magnets. What I didn't realise is that it's the actual button. So when you use the Joy-Con standalone, it's essentially the L1, LR, whatever they call them on Switch. The two top triggers, and now the actual magnet. They're made of steel, so that'll be interesting.
Is it actually the triggers that are the magnet themselves?
It's the buttons, yeah.
Yeah, I know they said there's a magnet release on the top of the Joy-Cons and the back, but I didn't realise it was actually the triggers.
Yeah, in the video it said like a little asterisk. The guy said made of metal, but then the actual text on screen said steel.
Yeah.
So
they have better SL and SR buttons, which are, if you're watching the video, these ones on the inside. So if you're using like a single Joy-Con in its horizontal orientation, they have better, because these ones are tiny, to be fair, on the on the normal Switch. So they're more usable. Basically, they've made that user friendly, but they're still there. They've made the sticks bigger as well. So if you've got big chunky hands, you're probably going to have more fun there. Chunky. And they have confirmed mouse controls.
Yes.
Which there's clearly Nintendo had to put something weird and interesting in there, but this
interestingly
is
enough,
very interesting.
It's like it not only opens up a whole different list of video games to be played on the Switch and compatible with the Switch now. for me, it was more just that they said both of them do. So essentially, you could have two mouse cursors going at the same time. I'm sure Nintendo will integrate that into like their family games in some quirky way.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, just
Welcome Tour is basically your tech demo game they're making.
But yeah, curious. I'm interested to know what the wear and tear on said little Joy-Cons is going to be if you're dragging them across a wooden table for like hours and hours at a time. We've all looked at our old rollerball mouses, right, when all the gunk and stuff and the damage gathered on them back in the day. So yeah, we all going to have all these trading Nintendo Switch 2s in like 2-3 years time where the Joy-Cons are like eroded of paint and colour on the side where someone's been playing Civ 7 for hundreds and hundreds of hours.
I actually can hold my mouse up to the camera because I am actually using a wired mouse. But they always have like the kind of slick pads on the bottom now to get that speed movement. And I've had my mouse for over 10 years and I just looked at the pads and they don't look like wore down at all. So whatever materials making that stuff out is like pretty damn solid.
Yeah. Well, they have like it looks like little nubbins on like the bits that stick out. So naturally like the buttons and stuff aren't being dragged across it. But again, I'm just really intrigued to see how they introduce them. So yeah, it's the same on the website. So yeah, using both hands to control 2 mouse controllers simultaneously.
Yeah. And we've already, when we get down to the games, we've already know that some games will support using one as a mouse and the other as a joystick, which gives that kind of weird. It's almost that kind of hybrid thing where like if you're playing a first-person shooter, aiming on the mouse is generally accepted to be superior, assuming skill level is equivalent. Mm-hmm. But then you're using WASD, so you're getting that digital movement. So movement isn't as smooth, where compared to a console where you're using an analog stick. So worse aiming, better movement. You've kind of got best of both worlds theoretically here, where you're using an analog stick for your movement, so you are getting that full range movement, but then you're using a mouse for aiming.
Yeah. If you can break your decades of muscle memory of how to move.
Yeah, that could be an interesting thing, but if you got good at it, theoretically, that is the superior way of playing a game.
Yeah, there's going to be some Fortnite kids out there who are going to level up using this nunchuck style. Now,
you'd have to be sat at a desk to do that because you need to put the mouse on a surface.
Yeah. You're going to be DJing.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
We don't know how the mouse works, actually. They didn't say, and it doesn't. There may be a laser. I can't tell, Nate.
There is. It's an optic laser.
It's an optical.
On the website. But if you actually go to the Nintendo website, it breaks down the features into. You just keep scrolling down the main page, and they've done like them websites where everything's animated. So you're just scrolling from one spot, and everything kind of comes in live like a PowerPoint presentation. They go in depth and talk about the mouse mode. Says the optical sensor on the side of each Joy-Con lets you use mouse controls on surfaces like a table or your lap.
Fair. So I suppose you could use it on your lap, but that would be a bit weird. Yeah. Although that's how Steve Jobs originally envisioned the mouse being used.
Wow.
When he popularised it. But
then he went and put a charger on the bottom, so...
Yes. Which is... Apple.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
They've
remedied it now.
Yeah, you guys have always been like this, like industry leaders in terms of design, not necessarily in terms of pricing or functionality, but in terms of the design. So why the hell?
That's a different day for a different time.
Don't anyone use mice at Apple? Anyway, let's move on to some of the more software stuff. So GameChat, Discord for Switch, basically, Chris.
Yep, indeed. Don't really know what to really add on this. Until I see it in practice, it says, you can have up to 12 people at once. I'm concerned with the kind of... Nintendo's networking hasn't been great at the best of times. So if you're telling me they're going to host potentially up to 12 video stream inputs at the same time as your faces and without any lag or distractions to it, I'll hold my reservations on that one. So
I think the first thing to comment here is I do think this is a significant upgrade then to the Switch because you don't have to use the Nintendo app on your phone to have voice chat, to have voice chat with someone you're playing a game with. It's now in the Switch ecosystem. I'm just going to quickly touch on parental controls. So seems like there's going to be fairly robust parental controls. So you can, if you're a parent, want to keep an eye on what your kids are doing, I think you can have it so you have to approve them to go on voice chat. at all every time I try. So I haven't looked too much into it, but I just wanted to get that out there because Nintendo does tend towards a younger audience, so it's worth being aware of it. You can add game screen sharing. Now, I have put a comment in here, Chris, because on the video presentation during the Direct, I thought when they were showing this feature off, you had the game, basically, it was someone playing on I think it was Mario Kart, what else?
Yeah,
on the TV with all the individual screens underneath. Now, all the screens that were getting shared gameplay, I thought looked incredibly choppy.
Yeah, it did.
And bear in mind, this was on the Direct presentation, so this is probably a golden sample.
Mm-hmm.
I think they looked about maybe, I guess, below 20 frames per second. So I'm not sure this is going to be a brilliant way of experiencing what other people are playing, but if it's a case of you're playing a game, someone wants to just show you something quick, it could be useful. But
yeah, we'll definitely have to say on that one.
Yeah.
Not that we're really the audience. It does look fun though. I think if you've got all your friends and you're like want to get them on camera, and I liked how it showcased with the camera features. You can kind of put your face on the characters as you play like the family games in Mario Jamboree and such. So it was like it's got that Nintendo quirkiness to it where it's putting you in the game, I guess, which is fun to see.
Yeah, and you can chat with people who are playing different games to you as well. So it's just your straight. It basically is like as if you were sat there playing your Switch and then had Discord open. That's kind of thing, but just built into the ecosystem. Because of the video chat, they are bringing out what I described as a webcam on the stick. I did hear Greg Miller from Kind of Funny describe it as a piranha plant, which I prefer his description.
Funny you should say that. There is already a third-party camera that I've seen circulated that looks exactly like said piranha plant.
There you go. That's the one you want.
Everything. I don't know if it's official or not, but I definitely saw something circulating when it had all the proper branding on from... Oh, as soon as I say the name, you'll know it. Camera Piranha. I'll find it. You keep going.
Yeah. So the Nintendo Switch 2 camera is a $50 accessory. Don't know what the price is in the UK off the top of my head, but it's a webcam.
Yeah, found it. You're not going to want the original one because the Piranha Plant one. It comes from. I just had it a second ago. Hori, H-O-R-I.
Oh, okay.
They make some of the different plug-in controllers for Nintendo.
Yeah, I think they do a lot of third-party licensed stuff.
They do, yeah. Not only that, Richie, when you want the camera set to privacy mode, the mouth shuts on the Piranha Plant.
Oh, that's the one you want.
Right, yeah. It's if you do a quick Google, it's coming out at $39.99 dollars. Euros. Which isn't terrible.
£34.99 at Smiths. Can pre-order it now.
Looks good, right?
No affiliation with Smiths. That's just the website I found. Yeah, that's the one you want. You want the Piranha Plant one.
You don't get the basic bitch one.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's probably more expensive as well. So
yeah. The Hori one also, it's a USB-C that plugs into the plant pot base, so it doesn't have to have the plant pot base to be used. You can just plug the plant straight into your Switch and have this weird hybrid Switch Piranha Plant if you wanted to. But the base is there for more stability, I guess. It's
going to be interesting actually see like performance reviews of these, comparing them, because the Hori one might not have the same level of performance as the base one. Yeah. But
I'm not expecting the biggest spec out of these things. It's just a basic webcam camera. It's also going to be interesting, I think, when people get their hands on Switch 2s for real. Mm-hmm. There will be tech reviewers slapping every single webcam they can get their hands on into the Switch 2 and see what works. Because that's going to be interesting, because we don't know compatibility. So I didn't even know about the Piranha Plant one until this recording. So that's why I'm here.
And that is an officially licensed one. So we don't know compatibility there, so it'd be interesting. How awesome would it be if an old PS2 iToy worked?
I still have mine, so it'll need a USB A to C conversion, but
the pence to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have one. You can have one.
Thanks.
I think that is all on the camera, because it's basically built into all the game chat stuff. Yeah. Moving on now to GameShare. So GameShare allows two players local people to play locally on two Switches with one copy of the game. So basically, if me and you wanted to play Mario Kart, I own Mario Kart, you didn't, and we're in the same room, we can do that. Yeah. Or we can also do it online with up to 3 other Switches. But I think for the online, you do need to have Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah,
which is like
so.
20 quid a year, so it's not exactly a huge deal. Which I think
they really utilised
fucking awesome actually for us for content reasons.
Yeah, they really utilised. This is where they spoke about Split Fiction as well, right? Where they were kind of showcasing that kind of game friend pass as well is something you can utilise. So yeah, it's just ways I think of Nintendo embracing that digital future, but keeping in their ethos of family friendly and sharing. And I always think it's one of them where you give people a little sample like this, and they're the people who then go and get it themselves eventually. Like you give them a taster of the game, or you let them sample the game. This is why demos used to work so well back in the day, and that people get so much enjoyment out of it. Eventually they go, I either want one for my own, and if you're like 10-year-old, you go into your parents at Christmas or your birthday and said, can I have a Switch 2? Because I've been borrowing games from my friend who's got one, and you get to that breaking point, don't you, where you want your own.
Yeah.
And I think it's a clever bit of easy marketing, and it comes across as very consumer friendly.
So crucially, you can use GameShare with up to 3 other Switches, so 4 in total, including your own. Locally, it includes Switch 1. Online, it only includes Switch 2. But the fact that they even made this backwards compatibility for local reasons, I'm guessing this is a technology issue where they couldn't get it working on Switch 1 online, but probably down to the crappy network card. But that shows I do really, really like this feature. It is only on certain titles, but there will be at least 51 games updating from Switch 1 to have this compatibility. And it goes further, because if me and you were playing, like, I don't know, they used a card game as an example. I don't know what the game was off the top of my head. But say that if I was sharing a game with you, I couldn't see your hand, so you're not just getting a mirror of mine. Yeah. It's worked into the compatibility of the game, so you would have a different screen to me, which is quite kind of like a unique thing. It reminds me of something like a Jackbox thing, where you have like a host console and then everyone's on the phones. Yeah. So what's on my screen is different to what your screen is. Like I can't remember the name of the game. You know, where like the one person, was it Fibbage or something?
It sounds right.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing where it can you can have different for each different Switch. You have something different screen displayed. So it's a very unique Nintendo feature, to be honest, because I don't really know anyone else that's doing that to that level, at least to this level.
Yeah, it was Clubhouse Games, I think, that was shown off, which I think is just like 51 traditional classic games like Solitaire and Poker and whatnot merged into one.
All right, yeah. So let's continue. Switch Online will continue over into the Switch 2. So everything that's already there will move over to Switch. Will be Switch 2. So NES, Sega Mega Drive, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo, N64. They're all gonna be there. And they've announced GameCube, which, you know, and he's just like gone, yep, here we go, Switch Online. The value of Switch Online is incredible now.
Oh yeah, it's cheapest bargain, isn't it, in terms of what you get.
And they'll be there on launch, so GameCube and some of the games, if not all, will have better image quality and resolution. So they're doing some up-resing there for GameCube games and Switch 2. Fully customizable controls, and there will be a Switch 2 GameCube controller. Don't know if that's going to be compatible with Switch 1. I don't even know if the GameCube part of the expansion will be available on the Switch 1. But what I'm actually surprised at, Chris, this isn't a second expansion. This is just in the expansion pass that I already pay for. So this is basically free for me, because I'm already paying for the expansion that gets me like the N64, Game Boy Advance, and like Sega Mega Drive. And now they're just throwing in the GameCube as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's that I could see a price increase coming at some point after launch. get people in the door with their new hardware.
Possibly,
and then
yes.
again, in terms of value for money, like I said, even a price increase, it's still going to be a lot cheaper than the competition. But it's just, again, we're massive advocates of video game preservation, and GameCube was one of those where I think everyone looks back fondly, but in the moment, a lot of people skipped out on it and went for different platforms. So to see it kind of have that beloved place within the Nintendo Online, it's good to see. So we're getting pretty much everything stacked now for online.
I'll quickly touch on the games that have been announced. The games that announced at launch are Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX.
The best Soul Calibur.
Yeah, best Soul. The one that has Link.
And I think it also had Yoda and Darth Vader, if I remember
Possibly,
rightly.
yeah. They have also announced Super Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance, Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, Mario Smash Football, Chibi Robo, Luigi's Mansion, and Pokemon Colosseum are already announced to be coming as well. So a pretty solid lineup, really, there of GameCube games.
Yeah, and they don't want to give us everything at once. Yeah. They want to stagger them and get them out there. Is there anything missing that you think, oh man, like I would love that to have been there at launch, like a GameCube title?
Well, the two games that came to my mind were Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which was a crossover generation one, so it was GameCube and Wii. And also Resident Evil 1 remake.
Yeah, true. That
is a GameCube exclusive.
Yeah.
They were the first two that came to mind, so they are, I think, plausible. Zelda is almost a certainty, but obviously they'll give us Wind Waker. They're going to save Twilight Princess for another time. Mm-hmm. Moving on now. Right, so I think it's time to actually talk about the games, because there's a lot.
We don't need to do that.
No, you want to talk about games on this Games News show?
No, I want to talk more about camera plants.
Right, so how do you want to do this? Because I've listed a huge list of games. Do you want me to just rattle through them, then we just chop and change?
Probably tackle the big ones, I think, and we'll tentpole our way through them in terms of priority, because there was a lot of games that are either older or ports or some that were surprised are coming. But no one really wants to know about like Witchbrook.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Goodnight Universe.
There's a lot of games that are just coming to Switch. There's a lot of games that are getting Switch 2 editions, which actually...
Yeah, give the overview of what they are first, and then we get into it.
Switch 2 edition is basically... Take Breath of the Wild. It's getting a Switch 2 edition. So this, you can pay for an upgrade, similar to you can with like PlayStation, to get from PS4 to PS5, to get a better version of the game, effectively. Or you can buy a Switch 2 edition of that game. The Switch 2 editions are not compatible with Switch 1. Switch 1 games are compatible with Switch. So it is the improved versions. Not all games that are getting Switch 2 editions, however, are paid for. Some of them are free. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are both paid. Upgrades.
Yeah. I believe I read somewhere that if you already bought the DLC, the expansion for the first ones, you do get the upgrade for free, but don't hold me to that just yet. I haven't looked too much into it. So if you bought like the expansion pack for Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, I think you get the upgrade path for free, but again, don't hold me to that just yet.
Yeah, there is a list actually on Nintendo's website for games that are getting free updates. That includes Super Mario Odyssey, Zelda Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So there's some Nintendo's big hitters in there. Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics. That's the one probably they showed off. That's getting a free update.
Because it needs all those extra resolutions.
Yeah. So it's one of them. They're very much doing it as case by case basis. But I think we start off talking about specific games.
Yep.
With the biggie, Super Mario Kart World or Mario Kart World.
Yes.
Which will have its own direct on the 17th of April.
Yeah, we'll learn more about that.
Out the same day as the Switch 2, which we expected. Big difference between this and previous Mario Kart is they're making it open world.
It's essentially
sort of.
Forza Horizon meets Mario.
Yes.
It's that open world where you're able to explore. All the maps are interconnected with kind of like little interstitial bits. If you read on the website, they've got kind of individual game pages up for the big ones. It's essentially Mario Kart with some new features, but reading from there, it says, hit the open road with Mario and friends, zip along courses on a vast world where everything is connected, race around grassy plains, bustling cities, wide open waters, big old volcanoes. It does actually say big old volcanoes, and more, plus everything in between. I said everywhere is a race course. This map looks great. It looks detailed, colourful, ready to pop. And I'm really intrigued to just see how when one race ends, it kind of funnels into the next race. So I guess when you would traditionally play like a cup game and you'd have 4 back-to-back separate races, this is where I guess you just round out in one and it kind of just funnels you down some kind of route towards the beginning of the next race, and then it might sync you all back up for the start line again.
There's 3 modes they talked specifically about. Grand Prix, which is your classic mode that everyone's familiar with. Knockout Tour, which is a new mode. And free roam. Free roam is literally just go drop into the world, drive about, have fun. Grand Prix, the new difference is after you've drove your specific course, instead of going through like menus to get to the next course, you drive to it. So once you finish your race, you'll drive to the next race. You'll still get 4 courses in your Grand Prix, as traditional with Mario Kart. But that's going to be an interesting one to actually drive between the courses, so an interesting bit of downtime. So I wonder how that will work, like
with your friends or something on the couch, like, especially online.
Does it have to wait till everyone gets to the new start line before you go? Because
I wonder
you're
if
not
there's like an
racing
option
between them.
I wonder if there's like an option, where it's like you can just all agree to skip. Like there's like a little menu pops up where it's like sync now, and it just puts you all in the starting lineup. Because you can imagine there's a lot of online players who, especially if you've done like hundreds and hundreds of races at that point, you're a bit fed up of the time in between. It's just downtime. You're not getting anything out of it. There's no competitiveness, as you said. Is there like collectibles and stuff out in the real world to give you something to do?
I wouldn't have thought so, because there's a free roam mode. So if they were going to do like collectibles or anything like that, I'd put it in the free roam mode rather than the Grand Prix mode. So that it's not like you just dropped into the world, then you decide. Like you do have to choose Grand Prix mode. Knockout Tour is the second one they went into, which is basically you pick 2 points on the open world map. I don't know whether you pick them or the game picks them, and you race between them.
Fastest guess there. That sounds fun.
And at different checkpoints, it cuts people out. So you start off with a huge race, loads of people, and it slowly narrows the pack.
It's just like a time trial element.
Yeah. So if you're not high enough in the rankings, you're out.
Yeah.
And then free roam, which is just, it's free roam. You just drive around wherever you want, really. They have mentioned other features. Time and date and weather will affect the atmosphere and like course conditions as well. It did look like there's a lot of grinding in all the videos, but they never mentioned anything about that.
I think they were just showing off that's going to be an option. Just because, again, how much can you really evolve on Mario Kart? Like, it's such a unique, perfect formula to begin with. You don't want to deviate too much from that, but still, people will look for something new in each version, won't they?
It's weird. It's like when we talk about like traditional video games almost getting a bit of a glow up, we all sometimes call it like a God of War treatment or a Breath of the Wild treatment. I wasn't expecting Mario Kart to get that sort of treatment. I was just expecting this to be the next Mario Kart game, but they have changed up the formula without losing the essence of what is Mario Kart. All that, I haven't played the game, so it could be utterly terrible. But
there's so many people got hands on with it, and they've already said it's like it's just so fun to play. Of course, Richie, we can't really move on without acknowledging the newer characters. We saw some new faces in the trailer. We saw I don't know them really. There was a cow. I don't think we've played as a cow before. I think it's Moo Moo from. I can't. I'm really stretching to remember which Mario game Moo Moo was in. We had. I'm sure there was like a bird kind of some. Is it Birdo? I think he's called.
Birdo's definitely a character.
Yeah. Then you've obviously got your usual characters show up, but it's nice to see we get some fresh characters in there. So
there's at least 50 characters confirmed so far. I'm not going to, if you're interested,
Yeah,
IGN
of course,
have
you don't need
loads
to
of websites having articles. I'm not going to waste time in this podcast talking about them because we have a lot of other games to talk about, such as Mario Party Jamboree, which came out on the Switch. There will be a Switch 2 edition. Biggest upgrades, mouse controls and audio controls. So there's going to be more mini games where you can shout at the game, use mouse controls. So there's Bowser Live, which apparently the livelier team wins. So this is utilizing both the motion and voice controls to score points in the game. Adding the Switch 2 camera comes into play in this as well. So it feels like what they've done is here they've took the new Mario Jamboree and all the new features for the Switch 2, slapped it all in there as an upgrade.
Yeah, there's a whole host of Switch 2 editions, isn't there? They've said the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom's there, Kirby the Forgotten Land, basically all the top sellers from the original Switch. They got in there with Metroid Prime 4. It's not even out yet on the Switch because they promised it for the Switch. That's getting a Switch 2 edition.
I think this is why it's not out actually now. I think they've decided because it's getting so close to the Switch 2, they made it cross-generation.
Might as well.
We suspected that, but and actually during the Mario Party Jamboree section, I did notice when they were talking about the upgrades from Switch to Switch 2, they specifically showed you using a cartridge from a Switch 1. So if you have the physical edition, you can upgrade.
That's why you go physical.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're interested in Mario Party, I'm not going to dwell too much on it. Because I wanted to bring it up because it's all the new features. Zelda, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I'm going to talk about them collectively because the upgrades that we're getting are for both of them. So you do have to pay for the upgrade pass, but I have seen some comments that I haven't managed to verify that says if you have an Nintendo Switch Online, the expansion pack, you can get the upgrade for free.
That's what I was talking about earlier on.
Yeah,
saying
it's
that
actually
if you bought that. Yeah, I haven't seen it confirmed, but I would have thought it's something along that. It's like with PlayStation, isn't it? With their upgrade pass, like if you own the game, there's either a cheaper upgrade path or that.
Well, to be perfectly honest, the a year of Switch Online is probably cheaper than the upgrade packs for both games.
Yeah, most likely. So, and it's just all these Switch 2 editions, just I guess, kind of pad out the launch library with cracking titles.
Yeah, so. The upgrades you're getting for Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom are the sort of stuff you would just expect, really. Better frame rates, better resolution, HDR support. And interestingly, part of the Switch app, you're going to get a section called Zelda Notes, which can let you share the builds that you've made in Tears of the Kingdom via QR codes with other players. And basically, it's got a sat-nav and help. Basically, like a glossary kind of things in there. Probably more stuff built in, but it looks like they are using the phone app to become almost like a second screen for some games.
Yeah, don't feel about that.
Well, having a sat nav in Zelda.
No, just using like another device while you're trying to focus on one. It's like Grand Theft Auto did it with like the map and the features, and it's like I get how it adds a different dynamic to the game, but
I don't mind it if it's a completely optional thing, which these games are out without it. So I don't mind it being in there because it can help you find things like Korok seeds and other collectibles. So it's like it's not that much different than really looking at a guide, I suppose, for some things, and for some ways it might be easier than a guide. But we'll see, a lot of this is we'll see as it comes out how useful it is. It's probably a feature I'll forget it exists, to be perfectly honest.
Speaking of features that exist, actually, it wasn't. They went into it a little bit, but we haven't got it in our list. Actually, the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. If you remember that, where they kind of showed you the inner workings of the Switch 2, similar to like how Astrobot does with PlayStation. I was
thinking Astrobot actually.
But it's almost like a mini little conference where it shows you the bit. It's really, really cute. Where it's like a super zoomed in. Oh, it's not a suit. I guess the little characters are shrunk down. They have a little Nintendo check-in desk on top of one of the Joy-Cons, and you go in and you go to each part of the controller. So you would walk over to the analog stick check-in desk. It'll tell you about the upgrades that they've done there. You go to the screen and there's a little check-in toll booth. There's a little fake bridge to walk over, and it's a very cute way of giving you the kind of inside scoop on all the Switch's features, which hopefully it'll have some like gameplay elements. Like obviously Astrobot was great because you got to explore the insides of a PS5 and it had a fully fledged 3D platformer. This seems to be leading more towards like PlayStation Home, where you just have this space on top of the console to walk around, go inside, look at the motherboard, explore how the chip works and the power behind it. It's really cool. What caught me out was the fact that they didn't say it was free and included. It's a paid purchase. So it's like, this would be such a pack-in idea of like, just explore the Switch 2 features in a quirky little Nintendo thing. This better not be more than like £2-3 quid. Like, they can't be charging game prices for this.
I think they will. I feel like it's going to be
Surely
30
not.
quid. It feels like it should just be
it
bundled
can't be. There's no actual game to it though, is it? It's just like walking around a living museum of the Switch 2.
It's this generation's 1-2 Switch. That was
still a game.
Title. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks so good as well. Like, it's proper. It reminds me, if you remember, like the little Flash games you used to play back in the day in school and stuff, where it's like the graphics aren't really intense and there's not much game to it, but you create your quirky little character. It's a shame these aren't actually Mii characters. Like, you imagine if your Mii character ported into this little Nintendo Switch world.
Yeah, I think they've moved on from the Mii, so...
Mii's are classics, legends. But we'll see with that one.
Yeah, so there's 2 Kirby games actually being announced, actually, for Switch. So, for Switch 2, sorry. We have... When I find it, we have a Switch 2 edition of Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, which is the one that came out on Switch 1. It's just the upgrades you'd expect. Didn't mention too much about that. The more interesting one is Kirby Air Riders, which is got a 2025 release date. And what makes this interesting is this marks the return of Masahiro Sakurai to the Kirby franchise as the game's director. So Masahiro Sakurai, very quick lesson in who he is, created Kirby, went on to helm the Smash Brothers franchise, and now he's returned to Kirby.
Yep. Air Ride was also a GameCube title as well back in 2003.
Air Riders is a sequel to that.
Oh shit, we've leveled up, folks.
Yeah, so it is actually a new game and a direct sequel to Kirby Air Ride.
Air Riders.
So I reckon we'll probably get Kirby Air Ride on the Switch 2
and
expansion.
The GameCube.
In the GameCube expansion,
time, maybe. Yeah. Nice seeing Kirby some love. What other big new ones do we get? Because we are getting thick into the show.
Yeah, I want to move through these quickly. Metroid
anything
Prime.
Anything that's just got like Switch 2 versions.
We'll skip, yeah. So
they come with all the traditional improvements you would expect.
So Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. We didn't really see much more about it apart from apparently it will run at 4K 60 frames per second in quality mode or 1080p 120 frames per second HDR of both of them in performance mode. Not bad performance, really.
No.
Like 4K 60. Like, if you complain about that, then you're an idiot. 1080p 120.
Yep. I mean, the aesthetics they're not photoreal either, so they're probably able to work a little bit of magic on that one. But I'm intrigued by this Metroid. Again.
And it's got mouse controls.
Exactly, yeah. It might be the best shoot you've ever played.
Yeah, they were the biggest hitters from the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Pokemon Legends ZA just got better resolution and better frame rate on Switch 2. We got a new game announced called Drag X Drive, which looks like a wheelchair basketball game that uses motion controls to control.
Wheelchair basketball Rocket League.
Yes, basically. That will be out summer 2025.
This is the 1-2 Switch game, that one.
Yeah. It uses mouse and all motion controls. We got Street Fighter 6 is also announced with new exclusive modes that suggested motion controls.
This is where we kind of hit a block, didn't we, of like third-party support buzz. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that caught everyone out was just the type of titles that were coming over to Switch 2. Yeah. And it really shows that all the legwork the original Switch put in to kind of rekindle those partnerships that I feel like were definitely lost over the Wii and Wii U generations, where the console just couldn't compete with the graphic fidelity and stuff. And now the Switch is for all intents and purposes, probably close, if not on par, as the Series S. We're able to get all of these ports now that have done so successful over the last 7-8 years, but couldn't quite run on the Switch, or really did in very bad form.
As I said
earlier, we can now have them.
The Switch 2 may not be the powerhouse of the gaming industry, but now is running everything. This is what I wanted. I wanted a Switch 2. How many times I've said I want it to be comparable in performance to at least PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
and I'm getting it.
It's doing just that.
Yeah, so Street Fighter 6 new exclusive modes are suggested could be related to motion controls. You're getting two editions, a standard edition and a year's 1 to 2 fighters edition with 26 playable characters and amiibo support. Which amiibo support? Getting some Zelda characters, getting some Nintendo characters in Street Fighter, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Moving on, Hogwarts Legacy. Enhanced graphics, seamless world transitions and mouse controls.
Yeah,
they're the three bullet points I've got. Braverly Default, which is a game I loved on the 3DS, which I'm very glad is coming over to Switch because it's one of them games that's stuck on the 3DS. With enhanced graphics, new mini games, and unique ways of playing. Don't know what the unique ways of playing are, but they're there. We are getting a new Hyrule Warriors game. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. So Hyrule Warriors is Koei Tecmo. What do you call it? I'm blanking on it.
Dynasty Warriors?
Dynasty Warriors. It's Zelda Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
And it seems to be set around the imprisoning war, so it's linking into the stories of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So that could be interesting. I've not played Hyrule Warriors, but I'm guessing you done well.
It looks like it's the fact that they've tied it in with the lead up to Breath of the Wild, I think it is, where you're going to see it from Zelda's perspective. It's essentially a prequel to Breath of the Wild.
What I think it is, spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom a bit. This may have actually already happened under my first look anyway. So you've had time for the spoilers. So in Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda gets sent back in time, literally in the opening scenes, and then works with her ancestors, but in the past, while Link is working in the present. I think this is going to be set around Zelda in the past.
Okay.
And because the way the game works, it opens with you finding Ganon, Ganondorf sealed away underneath Hyrule Castle. You accidentally free him. Zelda goes back in the past, and then she works with the sages of the time. She goes back to her ancestors to seal Ganon, which is where you found him. And then in the future, Link defeats him properly. That's basically Tears of the Kingdom. And I've only really spoiled the first hour of the game, so you've had a chance to play. So it's an interesting expanding the lore of them games with different set of gameplay.
Yeah.
A big get, I think, not a game I'm personally interested in, but we have a From Software exclusive on a Nintendo platform. Were you expecting this at all, Chris?
No, not at all. I mean, just to touch back to the third-party support, we did get the announcement of Elden Ring.
Yes, we did.
Tarnished Edition coming, so that's a huge get. That's one of the biggest Game of the Year award-winning ones from Software. So I feel like behind the scenes they were probably testing their engine and stuff, and then we're like, yeah, we can totally do Elden Ring, do an edition out on the Switch, and then from that was like now they have confidence in the partnership to go and do something unique. I saw a lot of live streams where people were going, it's Bloodborne 2. Some people thought it was like a Castlevania game, which I know we've said many times before. FromSoft and that Castlevania aesthetic would make a beautifully realised 3D version of that story.
Oh, a team up between Nintendo, Capcom and FromSoft with a Castlevania game would be amazing.
Yeah, again, so we saw all that, so that made sense. But then, to see them go in and just announce yet another FromSoft IP that's probably going to sell tons. It's going to be a lot of gamers' reasons to probably get a Switch, because if you like that type of game, you're going to be probably there for every entry from Software. So, Dusk, what's it called? Dusk?
The Dusk Bloods.
The Dusk Bloods. Not too keen on having just Dusk Blood would have been fine. Yeah, Dusk Blood 2, Dusk Blood enemy of the night, like that kind of like.
It's interesting. I think this means like a lot of hardcore Souls people are going to be picking up Switch 2s. This is a very smart get. I think Nintendo have read the room correctly on this. And as you mentioned, Elden Ring is coming, the Elden Ring Tarnished edition, and that will be out in 2025.
The irony in it being called the Tarnished Edition when it's going to be by far the worst running version of Elden Ring.
I know, I thought
it's funny.
Same thought, but it's
because obviously Tarnished is from that world, that universe. It's the character you play, but like Tarnished in term like usual grammar is like it's something that's bad. It's like it's the worst, lesser version. The tarnished version.
The Dusk Bloods will be out in 2026. I must admit, a lot of the games that I was skipping over that I haven't went into detail are coming out on launch day. There's lots of games coming out on launch day, lots of games announced for 2025. Very few announced for 2026, and the list is huge.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Hogwarts Legacy. We alluded to Split Fiction, Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition. So again, it's getting like a Switch spin-off one. I think EA have since actually said that they are looking to get like Madden and FIFA up and running. It'll obviously be the Legacy editions, which are it's usually just the copy and paste jobs. I don't think
there might not be. There might be the full version. They just said EA. They said EAFC. They didn't say a version.
It'll still be a lesser version, though, just by nature of it. You're talking probably PS4 level. But again, them coming is still a big get,
The PS4 level is not like back in the day where it was basically a different game. It's just not quite as awesome.
The bit that nearly got me was they did a trailer for Project 007 after the Hitman one. And I thought, like, oh shit, we're gonna get the reveal of what the game looks like.
Yeah, me too.
And then it was just another. No, it's still just called Project 007. We've got nothing more to show, but it is coming to the Switch. And it was like, man, I thought they were really gonna really just amp up the crowd there. I think Civ 7 we've mentioned as well, and a big one for me, realistically, was Cyberpunk. The Ultimate Edition of Cyberpunk, which is including the Phantom Liberties DLC, is coming too. So we've gone from Cyberpunk barely running on consoles to being pulled from storefronts to having a massive redemption arc, Game of the Year winning even well after the year of release, if you remember, with Phantom Liberty and all that controversy. And then we're now at a point where we're going to have Cyberpunk running on a Nintendo console, which is like, again, just some huge games that if you've not played them already, or maybe you have only been a Switch owner, you're getting like the doors opened up to just so much more third-party content now because of the success of the original Switch. Now it's got that dedicated fan base. Every publisher must be looking at Nintendo going, well, we want in on that next time round. We missed out. We left the Wii platform because of how bad it was, and you're on mute. And we're going to come back now for the Switch 2 because there's 100+ million potentially users sat there in the wings ready for this launch.
I mean, you mentioned like third parties. Huge get here, and I've seen a lot of salty Xbox fans. Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, formerly PlayStation 5 exclusive, is announced to come to the Switch before Xbox.
I reckon it'll be at the Xbox showcase this summer, and it'll probably come out at the same time. But there is that awful sting in the tank where it's like,
this was a genuine surprise for me. I was not expecting that at all. Star Wars Outlaws is also coming in 2025.
Yeah. Great. Again, a lot of these, just the fact that they're going to be playable portably is just like a really nice screen, newer tech.
You mentioned Civ 7 and Cyberpunk, both of them on launch as well.
Yeah.
Like the launch lineup of this console, and or at least the launch window. I haven't actually said the date it comes out, so basically in 2025 you get Tony Hawk's 3 and 4, which seem to have a SpongeBob level.
Yeah, I don't know where that's came from, but
it was in there. I don't know if it was in there in the original Tony Hawk's 3 or 4, but it was definitely in the Switch trailer. You're getting obviously Welcome to a Mario Kart World, Super Mario Jamboree. You're getting Split Fiction,
Wild Hearts S. This is like an EA game that EA seemed to like just drop and leave for dead like 2 months after launch. It's getting its Switch version.
Yeah. Elden Ring, Hades 2 is later this year.
That's everything.
Everything I'm saying right now is 2025. Borderlands 4, Survival Kids, which looked like my first survival game. Cyberpunk we've already mentioned. Hollow Knight Silksong got a 2025.
It was always 2025, but reconfirmed it's coming 2025 because there's a lot of people asking where the hell that game is. So Yeah, NBA. It's just loads of, like,
Marvel
again,
Comics,
as far as a
Cosmic Invasion,
launch lineup goes, you can't really argue with it.
Fortnite, which is not a surprise, but
That's standard,
in there. So these are all games in the first year. There is just a few more bigger titles. Well, actually, I think there's probably one more big title, unless I'm missing anything.
No, I think it's just the one.
We just go to the last one. They ended the direct with obviously the one more thing title, which is Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Bananza.
That's what I was thinking I was going to make. I do want to call it Donkey Kong Bananza.
It's a brilliant naming convention for a game about monkeys and bananas.
But it's just Bonanza. Bonanza, which is a freaking 3D Donkey Kong game. It's giving me a bit of Banjo-Kazooie vibes because it's a puzzle platformer. It has destructible environments. This is your Mario game of the early generation, I think, your 3D Mario game.
I mean, this is the Odyssey team that confirmed who worked on this one. So everything you loved about Mario Odyssey with the I guess the extra weight and power of Donkey Kong. And I guess it's his first line entry game since the N64, right? We haven't had 3D Donkey Kong. We had like Tropical Freeze and like the ports and stuff from the Wii and the Wii U, but a dedicated 3D Donkey Kong game. It kind of ties in with Nintendo's ethos. If you remember, the theme park expansions got a Donkey Kong ride recently. Everyone was thinking, why have they done Donkey Kong before some of their other IP? And it's just this grand scheme of thinking where they knew the movie was coming out and who was in that. They know there's a spin-off Donkey Kong movie, if I'm not mistaken, rumored, or a TV show or something. And then now he's in the parks, and now he's getting a big flagship game to launch with. I think it looks great. This was actually Mario Kart's a known quantity. This was my next one where I was looking at the gameplay. It just looks really fun. Yeah. Like smashing through everything, throwing rocks out the ground, bright and colourful worlds. What I really appreciate is just how fast the traversal looked. Because I always feel like Mario's always like slipping around and his shoes have shitty tread on them. And he's jumping up and doing his wahoos. But Donkey Kong, like, again, we know how fast like monkeys and apes can like move in nature, and this guy's got some kick to him. He's bursting through floorways, ripping up tiles, throwing rocks at other monkeys, and it just looks fun, like genuinely just fun.
I didn't get a release date during the direct, but on Nintendo's official website, it does have a release date of the 17th of July. So this is not a launch game.
It's not far off, though. It's
like, not far off.
It's like 6 weeks behind.
You know what? Should we actually say the launch date? Because we're now in.
I thought you said it at the top.
No, I haven't said this. I haven't actually said the release date of the Switch 2.
Well, that's on you.
It's the 5th of June.
The horse.
So it's literally 2 months' time. So you've got 2 months to save your pennies up.
Yeah, don't have to wait for Christmas. Yeah. This game seems to have like a really interesting, like almost like Minecraft element to it, where it looks like as he's traversing and smashing through the environment, he's collecting, I guess, precious minerals and stuff. I don't know how they're going to play into the wider gameplay.
It looks very much like a puzzle platformer collect-a-font style game.
Yeah, but with that like survival element of like collecting, breaking through stuff, like Minecraft almost. If these different gems and rocks and stuff equate to some kind of he's repairing his home or something, or you know what I mean? I hope it's got some bigger grand scheme to what you're collecting along the way.
But I think when I say puzzle platformer collect-a-font, sometimes I think people can be a bit negative with this, and I think I've probably been guilty of that in the past. But Astrobot, Game of the Year. This is how I think we have to be assuming this, because this is clearly they think the flagship for the launch window. And to be honest, it's probably only not in June because of Mario Kart. So they want people to have a bit of go of Mario Kart, then get Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
So I think this is potentially in Game of the Year contender. I think that's what we should be expecting of this, because Mario Odyssey was.
Yeah, a lot of people have got hands-on with it this week, actually. There's a lot of stuff coming out tonight as we record around like just hands-on experiences of all the games. And the general consensus is Donkey Kong reminds them a bit more of Mario Galaxy than it does Odyssey because of the traversal.
A bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all.
Mario Galaxy is very much loved. It's
looks like lots of freedom, tackle the environments. I guess because is he an ape?
Yeah.
He's like a gorilla, right?
He's a donkey.
That's not a monkey, though. or an ape.
Donkeys can't be monkeys.
Either way, yeah, it looks a bit different in terms of traverse. You don't have a double jump. You can literally climb or smash through things. So I'm curious to see how they've developed the world. But in the Odyssey team, we trust.
I completely trust Nintendo because they tend to take a gameplay first approach. Yeah. So they will figure out how to make them move and feel good before they've went too deep in terms of things like narrative and stuff. That is the one thing I will always say with Nintendo is you can guarantee their first-party games do feel good to play, Pokemon with an exception because that's technically second-party. But yeah. So sorry, I was going to say... Go.
Before we wrap up, because we are getting to that point, Nintendo have delayed pre-orders in the United States. They were originally going to go up on the 9th of April, and they've not said when now. Because of... They said it's still going to launch on the same date, but due to evolving market conditions, they will update timing at a later date.
They basically... You mentioned Trump earlier, they're not willing to commit to pricing right now.
I mean, it's that thing where if all these tariffs currently go on, there's currently a 46% tariff on Vietnam as of Friday the 4th of April, where the Switch is manufactured, 24% tariff on Japan, where the physical cartridges are manufactured, combine that together, and then you're exporting it out to a country, there's got to be a markup on that. And who pays for that? It's usually the consumer. This kind of sucks on many fronts, but we know who's to blame, and there's a different list of podcasts available to talk about all that.
Blame Canada.
No, not this time. Not this time.
Right. So I want to round out, I did actually ask our Discord, which you can join in description below, what Switch 2 feature or game are you most looking forward to? I just want to read through a few people's from our Discord's impressions. So Hungry Moogle, Braverly Default, Merdy Plops, Mario Kart World, and replaying Zelda at 60 frames per second. Hungry Moogle again. The whole direct was excellent. Much looking forward to Mario Kart World. Del B93, did they mention Zelda will be 4K docked? They did not. Dusk Bloods and GameCube Virtual Console from Brent Lauren. Merdy Plops, Zelda upgrades are free for NSO expansion holders, which we've mentioned. Big Lawrence chimes back in with GameChat, GameShare, and just one more first-party Nintendo games with current hardware to 120 frames per second. So this kind of theme of it, and 1080p handheld. Mark Fox mentioned there wasn't a 3D Mario game, but he'll take a Donkey Kong. Switch Hungry Moogle Switch 2 runs at 20. So a lot of people are kind of saying the 1080p HDR, the basic general improvements and games.
What are you looking forward to the most then, Richie?
Me personally, I don't know. I was just generally very happy with everything I saw. I do like a bit of Mario Kart, but I'm probably one of the only people in the world who does know Mario Kart 8.
Wow.
I just never got round to buying it.
I think mine just came with it. So mine is just that I wasn't there for the original Switch launch.
For me, I think it's the potential of the console. Based on what the titles we've been talking about, the potential that this console could have in terms of the software that's coming to it. I do really like the idea that GameCube is coming to Switch Online. I want to see what a Zelda game on the new thing would be like, but I bet it has mouse controls. I am really struggling to pick one thing.
Just the overall package.
It is the overall package. This is what I wanted. So
a better Switch 2, right? That's what we all said from the beginning.
They've ticked pretty much every single box I wanted them to tick, so I'm pretty happy. Now, are you pre-ordering this?
I have pre-ordered this.
You have?
I have. Again, it was that thing where I broke it down. It was like, for $429. Yeah.
So, I haven't pre-ordered it. But I am in the process of selling my house. I'm currently cash light because I'm paying for a house I don't live in. I will be treating myself to a Switch 2 as soon as I sell my house.
See, I'm currently also buying a house now.
Yeah. Yes, but you and your wife pay for the same house.
That's true.
Me and my girlfriend pay for separate houses.
Yeah, I'm also stupid enough to commit to it.
Yeah. I am all in, but for my own personal financial reasons, I can't pre-order this just yet.
Oh, you have so much more restraint than me.
It's not restraint, it's an empty bank balance.
Don't let my wife listen to this podcast.
I don't mind,
yeah,
Chris.
I'm
I
happy with
it
it.
to the end.
And as I said, I wasn't in there day one with the last Switch, because you're talking, what, like 8 years ago? So like we hadn't started this channel, like cloud gaming wasn't a thing.
I can't remember if I was day one. I was an early adopter, but I wasn't day one, I don't think.
Yeah. I just had my PS4.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't open to other ecosystems really, just because I had no reason to be. And then Stadia kicked things off, and then we went into Xbox, and then I bought a Switch second hand actually from Facebook Marketplace, which usually with tech I'm not one for buying second hand. I'm keen on getting it new, but there was a good deal on it. I think I got it for like 180, I think, for the console with the game.
Second hand.
Yeah,
my OLED one.
So being there on the ground day one with a brand new Mario Kart, which my wife does enjoy playing as well, although not the gold Princess Peach. She calls her a bitch all the time. Don't know why. She's got like an ongoing in-game racer rage against that particular character when we play against them. Don't know if she uses like the shells in a different way or whatever. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I always kind of get back in on the Pokemon game. So with ZA coming up, ZA, it's like that's one. And then the fact it's got this third party option, I'm now thinking like there's probably going to be more interstitial games that I might buy on Switch, just for the handheld portable factor. If I'm traveling away with work, it'll be nice to take a console away that has the power of a home console, a traditional home console.
I'm all in with Pokemon ZA, but I was before the Switch 2 announcement anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't really bring it up in terms of the stuff I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Because let's say think my house doesn't move as quick as I'm hoping, and I then just can't afford a Switch till later in the year. I might just buy that and Switch 1. I'd rather play it Switch 2. I very much would rather to, but considering the upgrades that were mentioned about that game were minimal, I don't think it's going to be a bad performance. It's not like there's absolute features that you're just going to be lacking. It's just not going to be quite as good.
What a time. It's just nice to know about it. We've waited for, 4 or 5 years now to actually talk about it, and it's mere weeks away. So
2 months. 2 months
Billy
away.
Booth.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments below if you've pre-ordered it and where you've got it from. If you're stateside, hopefully they'll go up soon, because that's a whole shit show waiting to happen. But as I said, it's one man's problem.
Yeah, I'm expecting there's going to be a lot of stocking issues. I think this might be why it's June as well, because the original Switch had tons of stock issues and people struggling to get it. So I think getting it out in June gives you that massive initial day one thing, and then gives them time to build up stocks for Christmas.
Well, the rumor, remember, is that these things have been made and sat in a warehouse for ages now. So
still,
it's interesting to see how many they are.
But that is all we have time for this week. But we do like to end this show with This Week in Video Game History. So, Chris, the 4th of April, what jumps out at you?
25 years ago, in the year 2000, Star Wars Episode 1, Jedi Power Battles. Recently just had a port to current-gen consoles, so you could go play that in all its glory with playable character Jar Jar Binks, if you do wish to. That's one of my top ones. We're probably going to get a lot of Star Wars games, because I'd imagine they're all clustered together in and around the release of the movie. Yeah. So there's probably going to be a couple over the next couple of weeks where we're like, oh yeah, there's another one. But another big one for me on the 5th of April is 24 years ago in 2001, Tropico.
Nice.
Really good game. It was just something different. Like, I enjoyed my RTS games. I enjoyed like The Sims and stuff. And then here's a game where you get to be a dictator on an island in the middle of the Pacific. And just it was one of them different. You broke your relationships with America or Russia, and you do the political game. You do your runs for president every couple of years, but because it's like it's one of those islands where you can also hire an assassin to go kill the people you're running against in the race, the campaign. You can do smear campaigns. You can demolish huts. You can build fancy hotels. You basically manage an entire island, and it's just really fun. It's got nice warm music, and it benefits from what I always say Far Cry games benefit from, where they're in a nice sunny climate where it's just fun to play. Everything's nice and sunny and warm, and the music's chill. Crack a beer open.
Oddly enough, I watched a Spiffing Brit video the other day on Tropical.
All right. Have you never played it before then? Or
I don't think I have actually played it. I think I've definitely seen you play it, but it was just one of them things where I think one of his last week, at least one of the videos he brought out was actually on Tropical.
Great franchise.
Going back to the 4th of April, the big one that jumps out at me, Persona 5, 8 years ago.
Damn.
I know, love that game.
Flies
over. Elder Scrolls Online also came out 11 years ago. And I think that's the main ones for me.
Final one for me, 5th of April, 9 years ago. I haven't played it yet, but Quantum Break from Remedy, Xbox exclusive. Everyone says, like, I need to get around to it. It's been on my Series S dashboard for probably half a year now, but I've just not had that time to get around to it. I know someone in our Discord this week was saying it'd be great for a stream, but it's just like, I'm just waiting for like some kind of repackaging of it maybe, because it's coming up on its 10th year anniversary.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And as always, I do like to shout out a game that wasn't stayed yet. 9 years ago, Enter the Gungeon came out. Enter the Gungeon 2 is announced for Switch 2.
Nice. Tied it all together.
Yeah, tied it all together. And that's all we have time for you this week. If you've liked the video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you're kept in the loop of all fantastic content here at GamerGuildTV. Don't know what we're going to be streaming after now Chris has wrapped up The Last of Us. We haven't discussed it yet, but the Clicker Cast is imminent, so keep an eye on it. Head down the link in below to catch our socials. And with that, my name's been Richie.
My name's been Chris.
GG everyone, goodbye.